Recently, I did a post on social media that more people than usual tended to view this post, and it got more, just very quickly got more views and likes than normal. So, I want to talk about this, read it here, and just to expand on it more. So, here's the tweet. It was getting the right kind of exercise and food is oftentimes more sustainable for your health than any pill you can take. I want to just go into greater detail on this and just explain my thinking behind this when I wrote this originally. And I want to just do a little short disclaimer here that I'm not a medical professional. This isn't medical advice. I'm just speaking from my own experience. And let's get into it here. Part of it is having the right kind of exercise. So sometimes this can be having a variety. There's certain exercises that if you tend to be somebody that just likes to walk, it can be important to mix things up and try weightlifting. In my experience, sometimes when I get stuck in a certain kind of exercise, it becomes less effective. There's that whole popular saying that variety is the spice of life. I think that's also true with exercise. Variety is the spice of exercise. I've really taken in the effects of exercise. So sometimes when I forget to jog for a while and I try it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was really good. I feel really good. So I think just being aware of many kinds of exercise, I'm just going to name a few here. So there's weights, like I said, weight training, jogging, walking. There's the realm of Eastern exercise like Tai Chi, yoga, Falun Gong, Pilates, different kinds of breath work. Some kinds of breath work really just feel like exercise. For example, holotropic breathing is one that comes to mind. And it's also not just the different types of exercise, but also it can be the time of day and the frequency. So for me, I used to be a daily caffeine drinker and in the morning, drinking coffee in the morning. And I've noticed when I exercise in the morning, it has a similar or even better effect than caffeine. It's more sustainable. It can wake me up in the morning, although I'm not always the best at exercise in the morning. When I do it, I do notice those effects. And the frequency is another one. So are you exercising every day? Are you exercising so many times a week? I think that can make a difference too. The context of what I'm talking about here, again, because part of the context is exercise and food can be more sustainable than a pill. So, just to backtrack a little bit here, there's all kinds of symptoms we can have in life. We might be feeling more tired than usual. We might be having some level of anxiety or having trouble focusing or depression type symptoms. And I think a lot of us have been trained by our modern medical system that a pill is going to solve that problem. And I do want to say that I'm not against medication. There's definitely can be a place for it, especially if it's been working for you. But what I am against is jumping to that pill when just getting the right diet or the right kinds of exercise could solve your problem. And maybe there's also another nuance there of more things to add besides those two things, like adding meditation or some type of community or service or purpose in your life. All these different things can work together to help you feel healthier and be healthier. That's the background of where I'm coming at from this, with the whole mention of the pill part of it too. Let's pivot over to food, because I said the right kinds of food can also be more sustainable oftentimes than a pill. We'll go back to our cliche again that variety is the spice of life. Variety of your food intake can also be helpful in mixing things up. And I think it's good to remember too, there's this mind body connection in life. And so if we're enjoying our experience of eating the food. I recall reading things about it can help our digestion and help us to take in more of the nutrients with food. I think a good starting point is just to learn one of these diets. If you wanted to go on the Mediterranean diet, for example, what would you really need to eat? Really just studying that, I think, is a good approach on this. I know when I got into this around 10, 15 years ago, I was just kind of shocked. I thought I ate fairly healthy, but when I really started to write down what I was eating and talking with a medical professional about it and studying different kinds of diets, I was like, oh, wow, I really don't eat that healthy or as healthy as I thought. And a good little rule of thumb that's stuck with me that I learned is that anything that is going to rot fairly quickly or within a few days, or it might be a few months or a few weeks, depending on the kind of food it is, that is something that you want to veer towards. For example, romaine lettuce or chicken would be things that would rot fairly quickly. And then something like some type of box cereal, whatever it is, like Life cereal or Cheerios, nothing against those brands in particular. I'm just trying to throw out names for examples. Something that's in a box or in a can or that has preservatives, those are going to oftentimes last longer and they're going to be oftentimes less healthy for you. So I think that's a good starting point, is just learning some of these diets. There's also the carnivore diet, the Atkins diet, there's a Candida diet. A lot of them have a lot of similarities. Some of the similarities I've found is the whole principle I was just mentioning: food that's more real, more likely to rot sooner than later. Also, vegetables is a big commonality with a lot of these diets, and low carbs. So if you are going to eat carbs, more complex carbs, like maybe a baked potato, like a potato or brown rice or quinoa, that kind of stuff. But to limit that and to have fruits in moderation, vegetables actually tend to be more important in a diet because they don't have as much sugar. Fruits do have sugar in them a lot of times. So limiting fruits, but still having fruits. When you start to study a lot of these diets, those are oftentimes some of the similarities. And then probably gearing more towards meat that has less saturated fat. So more in the chicken, turkey, fish, beans, these kind of foods where you're getting less of the saturated fat. Although there's a lot of diets that would say that the whole steak, hamburger, four-legged animal meat is also doable as well. So there's what to eat. There's also the frequency to consider too. One idea that I've learned about is the 16-8 fast. So going 16 hours without eating, then 8 hours with eating. So for example, maybe stop eating around, say, 8 o'clock at night. And then you continue that through about noon the next day. So no eating from 8 p.m. one evening till noon the next day. And then eat between 12 and 8. And of course, if you do a 15-9, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. The idea is that you're giving your body time to process the food and letting your body cleanse itself. If we're constantly eating all the time, it takes energy to do that. And we're not perhaps getting all the benefits of doing some type of fast. There's those kind of fasts, and there's other kinds of fasts you can do also. But the idea is to try to pay attention to the frequency of how often you're eating. And there's the whole calorie intake thing to consider too. But the idea, again, is that the context we're talking about here is another sort of cliche that food is medicine. Maybe that's part of what would help a person feel better, is just eating the right kinds of foods. Maybe that would help them avoid taking some type of pill that they would otherwise think they need. And so I want to pivot and end up here in the medication side of things And just reiterate that I'm not against medication, but even medicine itself will tell you it's best to take the lowest effective dose. So with medications come side effects, and are these side effects worth the benefit I'm getting from the medication or not? And the lowest effective dose might be 0. If you're getting the help you need with the food and the diet and other modalities in your life, maybe you don't even have to worry about taking a pill and dealing with the side effects of that medication. The other thing, too, is the whole history here. If you look back at the history of our time here on Earth, at least from a pharmaceutical medication standpoint, it's like less than 1%, probably close to 0% of our history as humans, we had these pharmaceutical medications. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of other kinds of things that people take for medication that I'm not going to comment on now. But for example, there's supplements, taking vitamins, V supplements of, say, vitamin C or vitamin B. There's the whole indigenous history we have here of peyote and different kinds of more natural medication from the earth. So that's a whole nother conversation. I'm just want to focus on exercise and food. And to give that full context, I'm going to go back and read this original post one more time. Getting the right kind of exercise and food is oftentimes more sustainable for your health than any pill you can take.